Hello, I'm Professor Susan DeGise. This tutorial is on Practice 7.1. Directions. Circle all syncopations in the following examples. How does the composer place emphasis on the syncopations? So, rather than listening to the musical examples first, I want you to be able to look at these and identify the syncopations, and then we'll listen to it together. I'm going to go ahead and do number 1. If you feel comfortable, go ahead and do numbers 1 through 3 on your own, pause the video, and press play when you're ready. Otherwise, follow along while I do number 1. First, I notice that the time signature is 3/4. I know the downbeat, beat 1, has the strongest accent. But I notice here that there's a half note on beat 2. So these are going to be syncopations. Remember that syncopations are accents on weak beats or weaker parts of the beat, but they have to be somewhat regular, and this is pretty regular, meaning that if this was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then suddenly you had 1, 2, 3, and then back to 1, 2, 3, that one incident wouldn't be a syncopation. So what you need is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is what we have here. So the question asks, how does the composer place emphasis on the syncopations? And here we would say duration, right? Because there's a half note on beat 2 that repeats. Beat 2 is syncopated. It also helps that beat 1 is just an eighth note with an eighth rest. That makes it even lighter, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and listen to a recording of this to see if we can hear the syncopation. Did you hear the syncopation there? Ba 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 ba, right? So beat 2 was definitely accented. Number 2. Go ahead and try number 2 on your own. Again, we're not going to listen to it first. I want you to identify it, and then we'll talk about it and listen to it together. Pause the video and press play when you're ready. Okay, so number 2 is in common time, or 4/4. So that means that beat 1 is the strongest, but each beat is stronger than the offbeats as well. So we notice here that there's these accent marks, and they're not occurring on the beat. They're occurring on the offbeats. Do you see that? So here's beat 1, and beat 2 falls here, beat 3 falls here, beat 4 falls here, and these accents are on offbeats. So that's occurring in the left hand, but at the same time, we have these trills in the right hand, and that trill is also giving accent or emphasis to this offbeat. So we're going to circle both of these. We're going to circle both of these. And then for the question, how does the composer place emphasis on the syncopations? We're going to say accent and trill, right? Because that trill also places an accent on the offbeats. Okay, so now let's go ahead and listen to this example. Okay, so that may have not been so easy to hear, but diada diada dada diada dada diada. Instead of dada 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 dada, it's dada diada dada diada. So as a performer, you would see these trill marks and accent marks, and you would place some emphasis on them, but you don't want to make it too obvious because then it won't be so musical. And number 3, go ahead, take a moment and identify the syncopations and answer the question, how does the composer place emphasis on the syncopations? Pause the video and press play when you're ready. Okay, number 3 is in 6/8, meaning that there are 2 beats per measure. So this is beat 1 and this is beat 2, and so on. So if we look at the left hand, there are no syncopations, but if we look at the right hand, we see that the downbeat has a rest. So that immediately puts a syncopation or accent here. Because the pattern continues, these are syncopations. Remember, it needs to repeat in order for it to be a syncopation. So there's no rest here, but the previous note is held out, so nothing is occurring on beat 2. Same thing here, there's no rest, but the previous note is held out, so nothing is occurring in the right hand for beat 1. So that places an accent on these off beats. Do you see that? So the same thing here, and here, and here, and here, and here. So there are a couple things that contribute to the syncopations here. One is the duration, right? So we have this longer duration of a dotted quarter note, but also the rests also contribute to the syncopations. So let's go ahead and listen to this example and listen for the syncopations. All right, if you have any questions on syncopations, please reread section 7.1. You've now completed the tutorial for practice 7.1. Thank you for watching.